Well, hello, everyone. My name is Teresa Gillarducci, and I'm the director of the Economic Policy Analysis Center in the Department of Economics at the New School. Our center aims to link the economics that we do in our department to, and which is heterodox critical economics, to mainstream policy making. And you might be wondering why an economics department, why economists, and why a policy center is sponsoring our musical event today. And that's because it could be Happier Earth Day today. And we understand, after the decades of work that we have done as economists, that facts and models only get so far, that the only way that we're going to change is getting to the gut and to emotions. And so today, in the spirit of meaningful reform and policy change, I offer you the economists sponsoring this event, Willy Semmler. Willy, you're on mute.
Okay. All right, thank you, Teresa, for the introduction. So I'm Willy Semmler, teaching economics in the economics department, and do research and organize event also in the SEPA there that Teresa had mentioned. I want to welcome also the audience now this time as live stream event, and today is Earth Day, and so we will have some also visitors from outside the New School, as well as from New York, as well as maybe even from other parts of the world. I saw some emails that other participants will join us also from Europe. I want to thank, of course, the SEPA for this organizational effort here to get this event going on, or organizing it. We had these types of event over some years already, over 5-6 years, every semester, climate talk. Usually we have some big speakers there from, well, not some single speakers, so to speak, there from institutions like the panel of climate change of the UN, or US and EU government officials, or speakers from the multilateral organizations like the World Bank or IMF or ILO, to talk about different aspects of climate challenges that are coming, that we are facing soon. Today, we somewhat thought, well, we could also build a bridge to the community of artists. And the artists, as Teresa mentioned, are working through different media, and they may be not so involved in the, or cannot be, or not so involved in policy and making and decision making, but they are drivers of public opinion and public beliefs, I think. And this is an important constituency also for the huge project now on facing the challenges of climate change. And now lots of things are known about climate change. The academic research is well preparing us since the 1980s. So earth scientists and physicists and economists and social scientists, that there's something coming. And particularly the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change since the 1980s has presented enormous results and detailed results, what the climate change is coming in what regions. And they have also collected a lot of, they and others, on frequency and severity of disasters that are coming. And some people learn through the latter one, less through the academic research. And these climate extreme, so as in terms of frequency and severity of disasters, are actually increasing over time. One can see this from actual events, and there are lots of data that shows us that frequency and severity of disasters are increasing. So the frequency of disasters like forest fires or storms or hurricanes or typhoons or those or flooding, huge rains with flooding. But there are also it's a slow moving climate change visible. For example, melting of the ice shields or changing of the ocean circulation that may change suddenly the climate, or change of agricultural productivity in countries with long periods of droughts. So there are some slow changing phenomena, but then there is also what's more and more visible and discussed, tipping points where suddenly both the frequency and the severity of disasters can increase. And these tipping points are studied by scientists. Now these we know where, so roughly the science, climate changes come from CO2 emission, and we know what implications, what effects that will have in the long run. But there is huge effort spent, partly by public, by institutions, like on mitigation policy, what to do to prevent CO2 emission, like transforming the energy sector, or on adaptation. So people say, well, climate change is coming anyway, so we have to adapt. And this is all well known. There are still a lot of climate deniers, and you will see some of those persons in the piece tonight. So, but this effort, of course, also has a lot of economic and social cost, in the sense of you have to spend some resources for this. And the question and the issue is, are these burdens, so to speak, for facing climate change and to avoid climate change, are socially just and fair distributed? So that's a lot of the discussion is going on in social sciences there. So, but what I thought might be important to bring in now also the artists in all this discussion on efforts, and because they are in some sense opinion makers, and they produce some opinion dynamics and beliefs, though they might not directly have influence on policy decision, but they are very important in forming public opinions and beliefs, and well, some visions about the future, or their perception of the past is quite different than from the other sciences there. So now I think do only these preliminary remarks. Some discussion will take place at the end of the piece today, but I wanted to introduce Stefania Kinesi. Stefania is an important figure in contemporary classical music. She is a well-known composer, and her pieces have been performed in Carnegie Hall, in Lincoln Center, and actually throughout the world. She has composed vocal, choral, operatic pieces, and composed music for theaters, films, and dance companies. And she is well equipped to introduce a piece that is now coming, and we're going to see. And she will also lead the discussion after the piece has been presented. Okay. Stefania, can you take over?
Unmute. So yes, very happily, and thank you for the kind introduction. And I'm honored to be asked to introduce today's event. The Steel Miller's Daughter, which we're about to see and hear, is based entirely on Schubert's renowned song cycle, Die schöne Müllerin. The original music, however, remains intact and unaltered, but Stephen Kennedy Murphy has reimagined the text completely, giving it a 21st century, post-industrial, ecologically sensitive cast. And he's done it all in English. The original Schöne Müllerin, or The Fair Maid of the Mill, is a song cycle by Franz Schubert, and it's based on 20 poems by Wilhelm Müller. It is the first of Schubert's two very important song cycles, the other one being Winterreise, or The Winter's Journey. For voice and piano, Schubert wrote it in 1823 when he was 26 years old. This means that the work is almost 200 years old right now, or will be next year. It's been recorded by all the greatest singers, from Fritz Wunderlich and more recently Jonas Kaufmann, to baritones Fischer Dieskau, Christopher Nomura. The list goes on and on. It's an amazing work of art. Although each song in the song cycle is self-contained, each song is meant to be sung in a particular grouping, in a particular specific sequence, hence the term cycle. The 20 songs in this particular original cycle move from cheerful optimism to despair and finally tragedy. At the beginning, a young journeyman miller wanders happily throughout the countryside. He comes upon a brook, which he follows to a mill where he falls in love with the miller's beautiful daughter, the Müllerin of the title. But she does not return his affections, and the young man eventually despairs of life. The last number in the song cycle is a lullaby sung by the brook. So this brings us to the Steel Miller's Daughter. We are about to celebrate Earth Day, and we are going to be confronting our hopes, our fears regarding climate change and the fate of our planet. And we're going to be doing it right now with a viewing of Stephen Kennedy Murphy's amazing reimagining of Schubert, a 49-minute video entitled The Steel Miller's Daughter. All the performances are by Stephen and Natalie Tyson-Moltaup. And before we view it, let me just remind ourselves that at the end of the presentation, we will reconvene here on Zoom to talk with the artists and with this distinguished panel of experts in a variety of fields. We are also going to invite you, the audience, to participate in the dialogue by submitting your own questions and discussion points in the Q&A box. And without further ado, please enjoy The Steel Miller's Daughter.
I've been laid off, it's my rotten luck, so I wonder. The dealership has repossessed my truck, so I wonder. To my wife, I'm a lazy, unemployed slob who she tells to not come home without a job, so I wonder and wonder and wonder as I wonder. It's too nice a day to be bitched at home, so I wonder. I'm amazed at just how mild it has grown as I wonder. It's feeling so hot, it's weird, but it's true that it's perfect for a Yuletide barbecue. So I wonder and wonder and wonder and wonder. I am not the kind of worrywart who gets worried when a winter's day is warm. I just drift back to college, getting high on the grass behind the dorm. But when in mid-December I can drown where I'd otherwise skate, why not relax and enjoy myself, 'cause for a change I'm feeling kind of great. Like an unemployed teenager in some lazy kind of quasi-slacker state. In an endless summer with the snow and ice all gone. Back when a bright sunny day meant it was time to mow the lawn. And how well the mowing went depended on whatever I was on. I'm lost in recollection of girls I knew at school, back when I was cool with Kathy and Linda and Robin, and for a minute, and the girls who were much more to me than a one-night stand. So, Brooke, where shall we wander among these sunny rays, as a kid in me's awakening on this warm December day? Take me from my marriage, I can no longer stay with a woman cold and frosty, with her rigid, frigid ways. If I can't go back to college where my memories fade to gray, let me stay in endless summer and dream my life away. Or just lead me to suitable employment that might make everything okay. Lead the way, lead the way. Another mill is calling in the path of the brook. The smell of it's appalling, but it's worth a look. It's worth a look. There's no enjoyment in employment, but we barely get by. And there's the mortgage, the goddamn mortgage, and the bills are piling high. I'm in trouble with my union, and my dues are overdue. I think the brook is telling me to make hay as the sun shines. I know the brook is telling me to make hay as the sun shines. Point taken, can't be mistaken, better think of the bills. Point taken, can't be mistaken, better think of the bills and get work at a mill, and get work at a mill.
should help him, why not help him?
But now my heart is full flowing with hot molten steel and the power of pleasure. And amazingly real are the things I can feel. Here is my application. Oh, I forgot to sign the thing. I'm just not myself today. If I could channel my emotion into getting a promotion and afford a new Mercedes, I might impress the lady. Oh, my angel receptionist with lips that love itself has kissed. Oh, my angel receptionist, is tomorrow the day you'll have a beer with me? But no, I'm far too tired to ask. I'll take a rain check and it's not even raining. I'm not complaining, it's not worth explaining, but I might just be up to the task and may just have the nerve to ask. But then her father, the owner, appears, and we're definitely not going nowhere for beers. And he looks like J. Paul Getty while I'm standing there all sweaty, and you walk a step behind him, and I nod to you good night, and you nod to me good night, and I wave to you good night. If I could channel my emotion into getting a promotion and afford a new Mercedes, I might impress the lady. Oh, my angel receptionist, is tomorrow the day that I'll ask you to have a beer with me? Oh, my angel receptionist, is tomorrow the day I'll conquer the fear in me? Oh, my angel receptionist, how long will this longing persist? The steel, I don't ask the forklift or the furnace, the punch clock ready gear or wheel. I don't ask the foreman, I don't ask the mill, I don't ask the steel miller's daughter, but somehow I fear I will. Oh, Baroque, put me to her. Have you an answer for me? Does my hard hat make you hard to decipher? Will receive me. Yes, she seems to like me, but could she want me? No. Or am I just fantasizing like a crazy child? I don't know. Or am I just fantasizing like a child? I just don't know. Receptionist receive me. I'd like to take the smoke from every single mill and make visible from every single hill, in thick harmonic writing in the sky, that you're my girl and that I'm your guy, in writing that will fade from view never. My heart is yours, my heart is yours, let the smokestacks declare it forever. I want to ride the flow of molten iron ore, from when it's mined until its molten core, and surf it to the center of your heart, fueled by the fuel that fuels each moving part, combusting in your soul infernally. Then exhausted we'll share the exhaust in the air, and I'll reignite our flammable chemistry. I'm sure you also see right in my soul that you are my singular and only goal. The way that steel begins with burning coal, you fire desires that have made me whole, and burn off all in coal that is impure. And carbon is made by man of my trade, inspired by the fire of your blazing temperature. You drill my heart just like a fracking drill, and tip my heart just like an oil spill, and break my geo-post-pubescent code with each extracting fracking episode, for hidden power by which I am restored. Drill in my soil, extract all the oil, and release greenhouse gases forevermore. Morning, here's your morning chime.
A sweet but slightly stocky eye.
Here's the local paper.
I read the Times, but it is what you've got. My wife, my socks, so kind.
Paper should be paid.
Paper shouldn't be paid. Paper shouldn't be paid.
Morning, here's
I can read about environmental crimes, the kind our government is paid for. But size, you just work with your hands.
a stocky working man. Little bit over a
Any bit over a tenth. Any bit over a
Although I may be wrong, and I'm coming on a bit too strong.
That's a huge understatement. But I wish I had a man like you who tried to please me the way you do.
Don't we have lunch
When
tomorrow?
morning comes
Don't
away,
we have lunch
when
tomorrow?
morning
Maybe
comes away, definitely tomorrow.
I'm not dreaming of a white Christmas or Frosty the Snowman today.
Day of fun.
I'm just glad the brook isn't frozen and it's warm as a ballpark in May.
May day in the sun.
And that we can sit here together like kids playing hooky from school
Summer school.
and spend our lunch hour al fresco in conversation like silk off a spool.
Pretty damn freaking cool. But it's actually getting quite cloudy. They might have been right about rain.
Rain's okay.
We're having some schizophrenic weather that's hard to predict or explain.
Explain away.
It's actually looking quite nasty. The clouds are now turning to black. I think I see flashes of lightning. I think we should be getting back.
Back to the factory grind. But isn't the the storm dramatic, the way it comes out of nowhere with
lightning too.
It's gothic and darkly romantic, and exciting but dangerous breeze.
I'm suppressing a sneeze. Achoo! It feels like an early tornado when the winds started blowing this strong.
Not for long.
I wouldn't call a tornado romantic, so I think we should hurry along.
You could be right, but you could also be wrong. I think I will hang back a minute, at least till the start of the rain.
Why don't you take my umbrella? And for the record, I think you're insane.
Did you see that kiss on the cheek? Was it a promise of more, so to speak? I can see in the wind and the storm, I bet true to form, my brook is now showing me an obvious sign that one day she will be exclusively mine. No, not today, but soon in some way, my brook, now river, will take us away. It's providential, clearly divine, that I will drink up my warm winter wine. Bring on the torrents, bring on the floods, mine she will be mine. Bring on the currents that race through my blood, mine she will be mine. Mine, mine. Storm clouds growl and faces black as night. Lightning flash your fangs at me in your evil light. Oh, it's just a test of time that this husband will commit his crime. Understanding you may be warning me of storms ahead, or awakening me feelings that I thought were dead. Rook, did you see that kiss on the cheek? Was it a promise of more, so to speak? I can see in the wind and the storm, I bet true to form, my brook is now showing me an obvious sign that one day she will be exclusively mine. No, not today, but soon in some way, my brook, now river, will take us away. It's providential, clearly divine, that I will drink up my warm winter wine. Bring on the torrents, bring on the floods, mine, she will be mine. Bring on the currents that race through my blood, mine, she will be mine. Mine, she will be mine. That was one hell of a hurricane. I've never seen so much goddamn rain. Everything will soon be blossoming, and everything will soon be green. Like a smile, after a shower of tears, like the forklift when I've breathed. Everything will soon be blossoming, and everything will soon be green. this all cause of some toxic smoke, as the tree-hugging activists have often spoke. Who cares as long as nature's blossoming? My love's favorite color is green. Green makes me think of my angels closer. Look, is anyone who knows her? Their sensuality is blossoming, like my love for her, which is ever and ever green. Right now the world is wet and warm, sobering on another weird storm. Who cares as long as nature's blossoming? My love's favorite color is green. She's everywhere in every tree. She's almost everything I see. But who is that hippie freak she's talking to? That green pea sneak drooling on her green. Those tree-hugging bastards all saving the whales. With their social consciousness, crap never fails to ruin the living of people like me with environmentalist measures on which they all agree. Tax carbon production for each factory, carbon monoxide annually. Give tax breaks for corn-smelling ethanol. Tax anything remotely related to coal. Activists, idiots, advocates, fools, the mold of the upper crust Ivy League schools. We're all into windmills with propellers that spin, with lectures that sound like the breaking of wind. That one with the ponytail gives me the creeps with his pamphlets, petition, and the junk that he heaps. I'm my sensual angel who listens all ears and buys into his bullshit, or so it appears, about greenhouse gases and greenhouse effects, when he's really just after some weird kind of sex. This Greenpeace grease thumper with his green movement cause, with the message as fake as a green Santa Claus. Hook, line, and sinker, she swallows it whole, that everything evil is powered by coal, and I'm just a steel worker obsessed with her charms, oblivious to the planet it harms. I can't believe she joined the protest of the mill. It's all 'cause of that Greenpeace freak I'd like to kill. Damn him, because of him she doesn't care about anything but a Green New Deal and cleaner air. Damn him. She has joined the picketers outside the mill, protesting emissions and of course the fracking drill. And when she sees me cross the line to go to work, she tells me I should join the protest like some jerk. And when she sees me cross the line to go to work, she tells me I should join the protest like some jerk. And with her boyfriend at her side, thinks to herself, at least I tried. I die inside looking at them, look for a hill where I can hide. From there, on a hilltop far above the street, I won't feel the global warmth of the randy heat. Up here, I won't see that she likes his pawing hands on her, and all the Greenpeace garbage for which he stands. Damn him! On this green hill on which I tower, drought has dried up the green grass and flowers. My love likes green so much. My love likes green so much. Green movements I'm green with mild envy, well, more like wild envy. My love likes green so much. My love likes green so much. Dollars are green and the enemy. Does she cast her hate of them unto me? My love hates greed so much. My love hates greed so much. May these long days of arid hours and the drought be replaced by showers. My love likes green so much. My love likes green so much. All is brown as it sees in the scalding sun until the rain is fine. My love likes green so much. My love likes green so much. The lightning daggers strike the fields below. The tall grass is kindling for flame. The cinder blows as from tinder grows a blaze only God can tame. With lightning flashes that ignite the trees, like matchsticks they'll burn to the ground and silently fall in the firewall. It's raging the only sound. It's raging the only sound. There's nothing green left anywhere. The town will soon catch fire. Houses, hospitals, schools and stores will burn, as will my church's spire. The steel mill will have a sudden exodus. The men will go running to their trucks, their gas tanks 'cause of oil-drenched roads. With the flash fire blowing in the wind, will catch fire exploding in the wind. Hunters will run from burning woods and herds of deer not far behind. Birds will fill the blackened air, so black that they are blind. Inferno, tell us why you've come. It's purgatory now, it's purgatory now. The highways, oil, smoking parking lots. We would all escape, but how? They'll burn to death inside their cars unless God saves us now. Unless God saves us all now. Perfect fantasy of a dancing in the rain. So let us dance and free ourselves from all the pain. See, the clouds are opening to rain upon the scene and revive the scorched and ashen earth in 1,000 shades of green. So forget about climate change, it really is a bore. Let's dance and make a better world with 1,000 shades more.
Hold on to each illusion, take comfort in each lie. Hide behind each fantasy from the truth that you deny. Hide behind each fantasy from the truth that you deny. And while you are dreaming, you can make believe you've won your prize, and that I am in love with you. Won't you be surprised when you wake up to reality, to the obvious you ignore, to the bonfire of your fantasy when winter is no more, to the bonfire of your fantasy when winter is no more.
No, it isn't possible. They say it isn't true.
That climate change
That climate change is
I
factual,
don't love
and you don't love me.
as the clouds
As the clouds are opening and massive rains descend, let's dance in perpetuity to honor music that will never end. I'll drown within my dream of you till the end. Let me sleep in the deep that was made for me.
For to sleep in the deep it was made
Wonderful piece.
That's, yeah, an amazing work, an amazing original, but the transformation is also quite extraordinary. And I'd like to begin by, of course, introducing or reintroducing Stephen Kennedy Murphy and his co-conspirator in crime, Natalie Tyson-Multab, and just begin the discussion by asking you, Stephen, as the performer and creator and creative genius behind this endeavor, what made you can you hear me? There's some strange feedback. What was the inspiration for this unusual project? Can you say a few words about its inception and the reasons that it came into being? It's certainly not anything anybody else has done, anything akin to this. So if you could say a few words about that, that would be really interesting for all of us, I believe.
Well, Willie and I crossed paths a lot by accident because we frequent the same cafe. And one day we were sitting outside and he said, we should do something artistic and musical for climate change. And we're both fans of the operas of Wagner. And I said, what if we did something with Lohengrin? And I recall a rather drunken evening several years before when I was telling him how much I loved Die Schöne Müller, and a conversation I'd forgotten, but he remembered and he said, how about the Fair Maid of the Mill? And it made perfect sense to me because I have a friend who's out there in TV land named Michael Best. And we share, he's a principal artist at the Metropolitan Opera. And one night I got home when we were sharing a place and he was listening to Fritz Wunderlich singing Schöne Müller. And the thing that struck me is the obsession with the color green, which of course is the color of the Green Movement by name. So I immediately saw the way things lined up, and there's a storm in it that breaks into a mixed message to the Miller. So it all seemed to be, it all seemed to sort of line up.
That's a fascinating beginning, and it's interesting that the color green was part of the, I guess, the story, because it is in some sense, it's a pre-industrial setting, right? It's very bucolic, very pastoral. So to bring that into a post-industrial world also takes quite a bit of imagination. As a composer, I'm also struck by the fact that you talk about opera, yet you chose a song cycle to revisit, and yet what you come up with is a genre-bending piece. It's no longer really a song cycle. I wouldn't call it opera either. It's not quite a music video, but it's got all of these kinds of elements. Could you just elaborate a little bit about the breaking of boundaries that this piece is doing in terms of genre and sort of models that we normally work with?
Well, let me turn the floor over to my esteemed colleague, Ms. Tyson-Multab, who has some thoughts about this. We've actually touched base about it.
Sure, thanks, Stephen. Yeah, when Stephen brought this to me, we actually were, this was right before the pandemic hit, actually. And when COVID happened, we started working remotely, and just kind of seeing if this could be something virtual. And that actually gave us the opportunity to discuss a lot more in depth, what genre is this? What do we want this to be? Is it an opera? Is it kind of a cabaret style, or kind of what is it? And so we came up with the idea of a little bit of a mix of both. And we wanted this to be really accessible to people who don't know a lot about opera, so that they could watch this and then maybe think, oh, I do want to learn about opera. We wanted it to kind of bridge a lot of different kinds of art forms. And yeah, we came up with something kind of in between. And yeah, I think it was a really interesting process because we had it's always interesting working with composers because it's a living, breathing product. You can discuss these things, you can have opinions, and then work and change the product.
And did you work remotely? Was the collaboration COVID distanced, or was it actually in the same room?
It was pretty much remote for the most part. All of the recordings were, videos were done remotely. And some of the recordings were done in person. So yeah, we were able to get a lot done during those times.
It's fascinating to me the ways in which technology is inflecting the way we create art. And of course, one of the things that this piece is doing, it's taking a much earlier art form and bringing it into a technologically very, very different world. So it's neat to me the way that both the process and the product themselves are inflected by technological concerns that have a lot to do with climate change. I should have added that I didn't get to introduce you, Natalie, quite properly. So let me do that very, very briefly. Natalie is a noted soprano, a voice teacher, and a yoga instructor who has appeared with a wide variety of organizations, including the Irish Repertory Theatre, the Provincetown Playhouse, the New York Lyric Opera, and Lexington Opera. So your contributions to this were clearly wonderful. We have two other panelists, one of whom we lost, unfortunately. Marie-Claire Giraud cannot be with us because she is in a house that has just had a power outage, which is why she disappeared from our screen. She has no access to Wi-Fi or anything. She sent me a text.
That's too bad.
Yeah, it really is too bad, because she herself is a sort of what I would call a genre-bending performer who has performed at the United Nations and does opera and Joe's Pub and Carnegie Hall all at the same time. But in any case, next time we'll get her back. But I'd like to turn now to Dmitry Nikulin, who is a professor of philosophy at the New School. He is the author of a number of books, an astounding number of books. And some of their titles are Matter, Imagination and Geometry, Dialectic and Dialogue, Comedy, Seriously? I think that's my favorite title. The Concept of History, Neoplatonism in Late Antiquity, Facets of Modernity, and the most recent Critique of Bored Reason, which is my second favorite, which came out with Columbia University Press in 2022. Dmitry, if I could just ask you to say a few words about your reaction to this work. And I'm kind of also interested in your take, if you wish to address that, on how one transports a piece of pure romanticism, one of the hallmarks of romantic music, into the 21st century in this brilliant and sort of iconoclastic way that this piece does.
Yeah, thank you, Stefania and Willy, for organizing this event and for the invitation. I want to thank and congratulate Stephen and Natalie for this really remarkable work, which is very, very impressive. I have known Dishone Müller from this recording of mine since many years, which is, as you see, by Dietrich Fischer-Dieskau from 1962. I once heard him live many years ago. He was a very, very impressive singer, and this is kind of the song cycle that I know, but I should say that what you achieved with your contemporary interpretation is really impressive. So to me, it also sounds a bit more operatic than a song cycle, but I leave it up to you to decide about the genre. It's ironic, it's very good. So I very much liked the piece you called Arrival, which in the original I think is called the Jäger, the hunter, when the hunter appears, yes, all clad in green, and hence the green is introduced. So it's also very fast, and I think it's very difficult to perform. And so, yeah, I want to thank you, congratulate you on that. So I take it that one of the main topics here is that of destruction, of catastrophe. And this is really what we are all facing now when we talk about climate change. But also thinking that one of the main concepts here is nature. Although nowadays we somehow avoid the term because we don't quite know what it means. We use climate change, ecological catastrophe. We speak about environment, ecology, and so on, but we avoid the term nature. And I take it that we, in fact, have lost it a long time ago with the advent of modern science, modern technology, and what we now call modern subjectivity or modern subject, who is not a person, of course, but we are who we are because we all participate in this historical construction. And this is a very monological subject who doesn't know any other, hence cannot establish any dialogue with the other, is always being towards death, and is a tragic subject. Therefore, you have these tragic endings in so many contemporary pieces. And this subject is exclusive of everything else, and so nature appears to it as mere res extensa, so to say, extended thing, which has nothing of itself, has no personality, no dignity. We cannot communicate with it. It's only considered as something that has no worth except for the worth that we establish as an exchange value by building something out of nature, which we now interpret as a sheer source of resources. And this, of course, is very well shown here in this piece, that we extract ore and produce steel and therefore destroy the environment. So I take it that the Romantics tried to address this question and problem of nature by saying that nature is not something that is merely extended, soulless, dead, has no dignity or worth, but something that with which we could talk, we could speak. For instance, this is a classical book by Friedrich Schlegel on the study of Greek poetry, where he says that nature will remain the guiding principle of culturation of Bildung until it has lost this right. So on this implication, nature is something with which we can communicate in order to establish, to edify ourselves. So Bildung is a not translatable, but very important term, yeah, which where we become who we are, cultural, cultivated persons, because we somehow are inscribed in nature and communicate with it. But even that sense is now lost, and so we face this terrible destruction of our environment. And so I think that pieces like this are very, very important because it draws our attention to the effects of our presence in the world, where we cannot be really even with each other because we are still very monological. So if you notice in Schubert, it's all monologue. You know, it's all very monological cycle of songs. So you have much more dialogue between two of you in this piece. And so this, I think, is really suggests that what we very much need to do is to rethink the very concept of the subject of who we are, yeah, rather than being cut off others, cut off nature of other living beings. We might rethink ourselves as comic rather than tragic subjects, of being in dialogue with each other, talking to each other, so bringing people from across disciplines in order to originate this discussion and finally try to realize what we can and should do in order to avoid this terrible catastrophe that we are all facing. Thank you.
That's a beautiful analogy and very aptly put. And yes, to have dialogue between all of the various disciplines is important, and to bring the arts along is also very, very important. Stephen, I'm kind of curious, what are your, of course, this piece is partly an expression of your artistic soul and spirit, but what are your hopes for its effect on the world at large? And then I'll turn that also to Vili. I'd like to know what his notions are of what art can do actually in the world. Can it actually foster the kind of dialogue that Dmitry is emphasizing here? Can it revisit our sort of mechanistic understanding of nature and so forth?
Natalie, what were you saying about nature, the piece Personalizing Global Warming? we were discussing this.
Yeah, I think the arts, I mean, you can sit in a classroom and listen to facts about climate change, which is very important, but what the arts can do is really rile people up in a different way, and kind of attach emotion to it. So I think that's kind of what we were after. Would you agree, Stephen?
Yeah, I would say that it personalizes it in a way that makes you have a visceral reaction to what's going on around you. I mean, just editing and re-recording and all of the technical work found me put me face to face with my own reaction to climate change, and realizing how theoretical and mythological it feels. We think of it in apocalyptic and biblical terms, but the reality is that still feels like a big fable, and that there's a boogeyman who's going to come and get us someday, but we'll probably be dead by the time he comes. It's too abstract. So by connecting emotionally to the issue, it makes you think, what more can I do about it? What more can I say about it? Who is that person who lives in another state who voted for Trump? And how can I get through to them that being a denier is the same thing as being an enabler, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Vili, what are your thoughts about the persuasive powers of art as opposed to the persuasive powers of simply thought or even very beautifully written papers, position papers?
Yes. Well, I had to think about this when I worked with Stephen, and with other artists. So I'm an economist, and from my profession, I'm used to think about, well, some maximizing some gains and minimizing some losses. And that's done by individuals who just care about themselves. So, and this is then also applied to groups behavior, to a state, even to animals. So that is a principle of economics. And I thought, well, maybe that's a little bit narrow. So because there are long run side effects of your activities that, and the past, the interpretation of the past, the opinions, the belief, that all leads to some behavior of people in a society, and also to economic behavior of buying and selling and make business and success and not success. And so this is an interesting recent development also in economics. One gets away from these homo economicus, which is called, basically caring about just your gains and losses and bringing in the broader society. And this is, I think, what art is doing. What I try to explain, art is in some sense is not powerful, so to speak, as direct decision maker in politics. So it's rarely that policy makers, decision makers, economic policy makers have artists as advisors. But they are opinion makers. They are drive opinions. They are drive opinion dynamics. They drive perception, what is happening. They drive beliefs. And so I think this is an important addition that artists are bringing in. And so in particular, if they, this is a very, policy-oriented, so to speak, piece. In that sense, it picks up a big current topic, climate change, and shows the origin of this, where it's coming from, what are the consequences and the disasters, and puts it back into some life. And I think this is was somewhat the gift of the art or talent of the arts all along. Some of them more those political ambitions to say something about the time. You know, the whole period also where you had not very democratic but autocratic regimes. So art was always the biggest opponent, you know, and still today in some autocratic regimes, and not allowed, of course. And the art could be poetry, novels, music, opera. think about Handel in these operas about very antique or Greek places, but it's always a critique of the current regime. So in some subtle way, you know, and although Mozart opera is probably a critique of a subtle critique of the current regime at his time. So art is also an opposition force in some sense, maybe not so powerful, but forms opinion, forms beliefs, forms expectation, and produces also some vision about how to live and how to live the best way. So I think this is was my connection of this with some artists that I know here also in this area and other artists. And I think this is going beyond what the economists, so to speak, are perceiving as what drives your behavior. So it's other things that drive behavior. And so that's can one learn from art. On the nature, I just want to add something. You perceive, so to speak, the Greek mythology or operas about the Greek time period, even Mozart and others. You see, the nature is something very destructive and very and powerful, that some kind of mankind or civilization tried to get the control over, and that had happened then in the Renaissance period, where the actual sciences were developed after the Descartes revolution, so to speak, to dominate, to control nature. And this is what Habermas, the German philosopher, was always, what we are doing since the Renaissance, the 12th, 13th century, with this build-up of machinery and industrialization and use of resources and overuse of resources and pollution of the environment, we are instrumentalizing nature. And I think in some sense, what Stephen has shown, well, the nature strikes back. So we don't know what the nature is, but we know what the laws of nature are somewhat. You can't fill up the whole atmosphere with CO2 emission. That will have dramatic effects on the laws of nature and the climate and the temperature. But in some sense, what Stephen tried to show, the nature strikes back. Back against our attempt to conquer, to instrumentalize this for industrial production and for societies. And so I think this is and bring in, I mean, I found that, saw that now the last version, the first time, it's a wonderful piece, really. It brings in all the emotions and all the elements of the destructions that you see there in the academic work. Yeah, he has built it in very nicely. So all the climate catastrophes and the disasters and the frequency of disasters seem to also increase there in your piece. So coming pretty often, and the severity. So I think if we see any way to promote this direction would be great. And I was wondering if yeah, also the discussion on genre. This was exactly, we discussed this several times. How would you call this? What genre is this? And so you artists are probably better to do this. This is probably, well, if you find a nice name, probably will feature it better and bring it out to the public probably and make it more give it a name, so to speak. But I have no idea how to call it, so it's probably up to you. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll invent something, but it is at the very least a genre bending piece, which is what makes it so lively and interesting. Yes. You know, it just refuses to conform to past norms in some ways, which is what present day climate change takes. Unfortunately, we are coming to the end of our time. In fact, we have exceeded it by a few minutes. So I would like to say thank you again to the creators of this amazing piece. And I hope that it has legs, as they say in showbiz, that it really goes far, as it deserves to. And thank you very much, of course, to the panelists and also to the Schwartz Center for Economic Policy and Analysis for sponsoring this. And of course, also to the new school for sponsoring this event, to the IT department, and of course to Eva Conway, who made this possible. Thank you all for joining us, and fascinating afternoon, and go and celebrate what's left of Earth Day. Thank you all. Take care.
This was the first step to build a bridge between the SIPA research and the artists. So if anybody has some ideas to increase the strength and the length of the bridge, so let us know.
Thank you. You've done a great job in getting that bridge built to start with. So we'll keep working on it. Take care, everybody. Thank you.